Well, guys, in this final segment of the video, we're going to be talking about the subtypes of expository discourse. Um, as I mentioned before, we can say that descriptive discourse is immersed or is a subtype or subcategory of expository, or it could be, at least in the let's say in the extent in which such descriptive discourse is objective and it takes no parts and it does not assume any pro or con position, right? That is why possibly um, it's separated as a different discourse, right? Because we have descriptive discourse that is objective and subjective, and well, if you take a look at the different configurations in this same PowerPoint presentation, if you remember your notes, probably you're going to remember the connotations of the script discourse. So here, as you will see in this final slide of the updated presentation that I'm sending you today, the first subtype of expository discourse is the descriptive one, right? So as we can expect, it basically provides information about an object, an idea, its characteristics, either physical or psychological if we're talking about people, or chemical if we're talking about elements. Well, basically all the different enunciations and ideas that we have about description are going to be included in here. Here we have an example, right? Such as the definition of global warming. What is global warming? What are the elements that it possesses? What does it imply? All these different things. And here we have some macrostructural signal words and phrases. That is, just a fancy way of saying words or expressions that normally are employed with descriptive type of expository discourse, right? So here we have, for instance, an example of, to illustrate, such as, and those are just some examples, but I'm pretty sure that you can come up with a lot more, right? Because there are a lot of different words and expressions, connectors, and so on that we require in order to provide a description in terms of presenting a concept. Well, second in here we have procedural, right? It comes from procedure, and basically it's going to be talking about the different steps or requirements that are necessary, or stages, in order to accomplish a goal or to reach a particular reaction, or well, a lot of different things related to that, right? So for example, here we have another one that is related to the previous one: procedures that could help slow global warming, certain things that we can stop, that we can do, sorry, to stop or to minimize or to diminish the global warming. um, Again, take a look at all these different things, and let's say that we are doing it since a dispassionate point of view. Yes, probably in the first part, if we are going to describe, we can say that it's um, a negative thing for the environment, but one more time, we're not emitting a particular judgment, um, at least in a very passionate way, right? Here, like, there are some very objective things that we could do in order to slow or stop somehow global warming. Again, we have some these different words that can be connected, such as first, second, then last, following, next, until, at that time, during, before, after. Everything that has to do with ordinal ideas, are going to be here in procedural. Then we have enumerative, right? So as you can see here, what we're going to try to do is to provide examples, to mention ideas, or to sort of let the reader or listener know about different categories or kinds or types or classes. Such as here, as you can see in here, we have examples of physical changes to the earth that are examples of global warming, right? So we can number a certain amount of characteristics or manifestations that could help us know if global warming is happening, such as the melting of the ice cascades in the poles, the extinction of certain um, very sensitive, weather sensitive species. Well, different things like that. And again, we have the accompanying words, such as the following, additionally, another, likewise, besides, also. Well, here we have another that is a cause and effect that, of course, is going to be part of the equative propositions that we already mentioned, like saying one versus the other, or one compared to other. And basically, well, it's going to give us, let's say, an idea about the. Oh, sorry. I just switch to the next one. I am not explaining the cause and effect, but the compare and contrast, right? I'm sorry, my lapsus. Compare and contrast has to do with what I was just mentioning. Well, of course, comparing two ideas, two objects, two items, or similar things, right? So in the example in here, we have an examination of the Earth's climate today versus 1,000 years ago, right? So we very objectively can say if the Earth is hotter or warmer, or if it's colder, or if it has more volcanic eruptions, or anything that it's weather associated, or global warming associated. And again, we present them as facts and not necessarily making a judgment if it's we're having a better environment and weather right now than in the past, right? And we have the different comparative words, such as however, similarly, as opposed to, both, instead, either, on the other hand, and all of the other ones. Sorry, so I am coming back to the previous one because I enunciated this one, cause and effect, but didn't explain it. But again, I think that it's pretty simple. You could like extract that information or predict it, infer it very easily. And of course, it's going to try to give causes and effects, reasons or motivations versus the results, versus what it's going to happen if I do this. If I do A, the cause is B, and all these different things, right? Now, so here we have in the example possible explanations for global warming. So we can create a text, a discourse, talking about the hypothesis, or the possibilities of the sources or origins of global warming. And again, we have a cause and effect connectors or words, such as because, as a result of, effect of, consequently, so, therefore, so on and so forth. Finally, the final category of expository subtype, expository discourse, we have the problem solution. So, well, it's pretty simplistic. We're just approaching or providing ideas about problems and possible solutions. If we have an issue, how are we able to solve it? And we have, for example, here everything about global warming, possible solutions for a particular cause of global warming, right? So as we have many causes, we can focus on one cause or two causes, and provide ideas, or provide um, solutions, courses of action that could be, um let's say, be able to diminish or to minimize a problem, or to solve it somehow in the near future or in the long term. So basically, that's problem solution. And here we have a couple of different words that are associated to those, such as the problem, reason, concern, issue, as a result, so that, a possible solution is, and all these different things. So just like in the previous video, I would recommend, as a practice exercise, that you are able to try to find at least an enunciate like this, that may fit into one of these subtypes. If you're able to do at least one of each of these subtypes, it would be a good practice exercise, non-evaluated practical exercise. Um, Nothing that I am going to rate right now. And one more time, if anybody wants to do it and you want to send me the well, the exercises or the examples, it would be a good idea. I could check them, no problem at all. So basically, that's it, guys. Hope you are able to cover this part. Remember that this is like the final discourse that we're going to be approaching. The rest of them are going to be probably some exercises or ideas that we can do with expository discourse and some combinations with previous discourses that we have tried a couple of them before, like combining narrative with descriptive, argumentative with narrative. Well, the idea is that we're able at this point of the semester to combine the whole thing. So hopefully it was useful for some of you guys, the ones that would like to take a look at it to get informed. And of course, like not only this one, the expository that is sort of calm in terms of presenting situations, like we take some distance and we include them in there. Um, well, not only this discourse has to do completely with our current situation at the university, educational, different things. Yes, sometimes I think that some of the things that we have been presented, both by the administration and the students' organizations, requires a better capability and ability of expository discourse, right? Because sometimes they are so passionate in their positions, both sides, right? And if we include the government, for example, or the state, well, that's even worse. It's difficult to be objective, right? And sometimes we're required to have objective information, dispassionate and let's say cold information, cold facts, naked facts, as I mentioned a little time ago, in order to make better decisions. So I think that this lecture, little one, has a lot to do with this. Hopefully, it can be useful for your academic life, of course, but especially for the historical moment that we are living right now. Then again, if you prefer to have a more direct approach and compromise approach, that's excellent, and it should be that way. And I would recommend then to use argumentative approach, argumentative discourse. And I think that with everything that we have studied and all the exercises that we have done and the schemes and the graphics, well, your arguments can be excellent right now because you are going to know how to attack feeble or weak arguments. Yes, and that's what we need in assemblies, and that's what we need in, let's say, our communications, written communications. That's what we need when we're trying to convince people on the outside that are not part of the university to join our cause or our particular point of view. So one more time, I am completely sure that this class and these topics that we're managing are not just something that is academic and we can take or not, but something that we can definitely use in our real life, in our context that are happening right now. So hopefully some of this is useful for you for that. So thank you very much, guys. Hopefully I will be sending you a new video shortly. Again, you're the last group that I talked to, but I will try to be more proficient with that, more efficient. So the next video arrives sooner. We have some compromises for the next week. I will be talking about that later, not only in the video, but in a couple of videos and a couple of emails that I'm going to send you about the event of next class of next week and all those different things. So thank you very much and see you around. Bye bye.